Hello, my name is Wendy, and thank you so much for joining us today on Minority Report. In today's episode, we have Iris Aquino and Alix Montoya talking about undocumented students and what they're going through. So, hi, ladies.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. Great.
Good. So let's get to it. Let's talk about a little bit about what's happening right now in this issue of undocumented students. And first, what I want to talk about with you guys is about your stories. At what age did you come to the United States?
So I came here on October 23, 2003. I was 10 years old at the time, and at first we came, my parents told me we were going to be here for a little bit just to learn English and just to spend more time with my cousins, what we usually did. But this time was different because it was during a school year, and at the time I knew I was different once we overstayed our visa, but I didn't really know the implications that came with. All I knew at the time was I couldn't go to Mexico because as a child, you don't really notice how that is going to impact your life. So I started to realize all these implications when in high school, everybody started getting a driver's license and starting to work part-time jobs, and I wanted to do the same thing, but my mom said she would never say oh yeah, we're gonna do that right now. She would just be oh well, you don't need that right now, don't worry about it. But she never really said you can't because you don't have a social security. Mm-hmm. So that happened, and then towards college when I kind of really started and to notice that I really wanted to go to college, that's when it really hit me, what really being undocumented really means. Because as you may know, we can't apply for any government aid, and scholarships are also very scarce. So many scholarships that we have, they have to be private because many of public scholarships, they require a social security or be a permanent resident and a U.S. resident.
Okay. And then you came.
I came when I was 5 years old. Okay. I don't know the exact day. I can really actually remember. It's been so long. But like she said, I came to visit family. I had family in Fort Smith. I had two aunts, and they had their own family, so I would come visit them every year. And so after we would come visit every year, and then when my parents got divorced is when I decided to stay with my mom. But it was around 2007, 2008, and I stayed 1 year with my dad, and then I was kind of in a way didn't really see him because he had to work all the time, so I decided to come back with my mom. But after that, we'll go back and forth because my visa was still, it still worked. It was not expired. So I would go every summer and visit my dad. And once I realized after I graduated from high school that I needed to go to college, my attorney told me that I had to stay and not go back anymore. So, but yeah.
Okay, so both of you came here because of your parents, in a way?
Correct.
Yeah, well, for my family, yeah.
For family, okay, awesome, okay. So why do you think your family brought you here? What was the reason for it? Was it for a better life? Or was it to be closer to your family? Because some of your family was already here.
After my parents got separated, that's when my mom decided to come to the U.S. to find a better life for her, because she didn't have an education like my dad. Like, my dad's a dentist in Mexico. So my mom had no other option, because it's really hard to find a job in Mexico, especially when you don't have a profession. So she thought it would be easier for her to start a new life in the U.S. And she started off in California. And then, since the life there is so expensive and it's really hard to find a job, and she decided to move to Arkansas. And that's where she started off and kind of settled in Fort Smith. And then later we moved here to Northwest Arkansas.
Okay, and then your family came here.
Yes, so like it's kind of similar to Edie's. So I used to come all the time to visit my mom's side of the family, because most of her family is here. But I think the reason why we wanted to settle here, it's just he saw that we would have a better chance of having a better opportunity, and there were more resources. Like in Mexico, it's really hard. And so she made that sacrifice. So she sacrificed her culture, everything, so we could get a better future.
Okay, and I kind of want to talk about that too. So you came at the age of 10, so you had a life over there.
Yes.
And friends. Then you came at the age of 5, so you had a little bit of friends as well.
Yeah.
How was that for you guys, to leave your family, to leave your culture, your language, something that you were so comfortable with, and coming to the U.S.? How was that feeling?
I think as a kid, you don't really notice those things. All you think about, like, it's like an adventure. It's going to be so exciting because it's something new, you know. But my culture is still with me in that aspect, because my first day, I remember thinking I was going to walk into this classroom and I wasn't going to like be able to communicate with anybody, because I thought I was going to be the only Hispanic. But I remember opening the door and seeing other faces like me. So I was able to like have my own community within the classroom. So I think that also helped.
And then did you?
Well, for me, it was a bit different, because many Hispanic families come here because they want to get a better future for their families. For me, it was different because my dad already had a stable life. He had a profession. He was part of the army in Mexico. So he got paid really good. And for me, I had to leave everything, like the luxury in a way, having to go to private schools. That was mainly it, you know, having to leave my stable life and start in a new country where I had no idea where I was going to live, or if I was going to have food, or how was I going to start, you know, because I was, at the time when I actually moved here, I was already 15 years old, so I knew more about it. But before, we would just come back and forth every summer or during Christmas break. So it didn't really impact me when I was younger, because I've always knew that I was going to go back. But then when my mom decided to leave my dad, that's when I had to make the decision to either stay with my dad or stay with my mom. And in a way, I was obligated to stay with my dad, since he had a more stable life, and financially he was able to support me and my sister as well. And I was kind of forced to stay with him, because he would always kind of say, what are you going to do with your mom? Your mom doesn't have a job. She's undocumented. She's not going to be able to find a job. So I think you should stay with me for now. And I did listen to him, and I stayed with him. But I stayed for him for almost, I think, 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. And since he's so dedicated to his profession, he's always willing to help people. He kind of just dedicated more time to that, and was not able to spend time with me and my sister. So my sister was kind of my mom, and she would take care of me. And I didn't like that. I missed my mom. You know, I was so close to her. Then my sister was closer to my dad. So after a year, I decided to move and leave everything, you know, like friends, being able to have a stable life and come here and start from zero.
Do you guys feel like the U of A has done a good job in kind of informing themselves about this issue and helping you as an individual with your classes, picking them, and your journey at the U of A, sorry?
No, I think there's definitely some work that needs to be done in educating educators and advisors on how to treat students like us, how the struggles that we face are very particular, and like even though most of us are undocumented, like just having to hear like our stories are very different and our struggles are extremely different. So maybe educating them overall what like DACA means and like scholarship wise and how it shows like how other generations had it hard, but like I see Cessna and she didn't have this opportunity. Like she was here and she had to pay twice, like we all paid out of state tuition and all those stuff.
And you have DACA.
Correct.
But you don't have DACA, right?
No.
So can you tell me a little bit about the benefits in having DACA and not having DACA? I know that you don't have it, and I know that you do. So what is the benefit? What has it helped you with?
When I found out about DACA, which it was in June of 2012, I just felt like a sense of weight that had like lift off from my shoulder. Like I felt like I was gonna be able to drive. My life didn't depend as much on my aunts. I was gonna have a sense of freedom, and more than anything, I was able to contribute to my country by working. I remember the first thing I thought, I was like, I just want a good job. Like I want to be able to have like a good job, not just working at McDonald's or working, like I wanted to do something out of myself. So I decided, like my first like real job was lifeguard at the Rogers Aquatic Center, and that has been a big impact in just being able to drive, and that really helps. Like how like having that 9-digit number helps tremendously. It's incredible.
It's crazy to think how this little driver's license that at times we don't take for granted, how it is so big. Like it's such a big thing in our lives. And I mean, I don't even see it sometimes. I just like grab it and put it in my bag. I'm like, whatever. But it's a huge deal for you guys. I mean, it's the freedom, like you just said.
Yes.
It's a huge way to freedom. You don't have DACA.
I don't have DACA.
Do you feel like you're kind of trapped, or do you feel like you're not free?
Well, I'm used to it now, so I mean, there's still like that little fear in you when you see a cop. It's like, oh, okay, I need to drive. You know, I drive in a good way, but sometimes we do speed up. You know, maybe 5 over or something. But for me, I can't, because a cop can stop me, and they can give me a ticket. They can't deport me right away, but I do remember I went to Florida one time with friends for spring break, and you know, silly me wanted to drive, and on the way back, I was stopped by a sheriff, and that was the first time I ever got stopped. That was in 2014.
Okay.
And you know, sheriffs are different than just local police. So I was freaking out. I was I was taking kind of the back road, so it was 55 the limit, and I was going 75. So I was going over 20. So, but I didn't realize that because there were no signs. I couldn't see anything. It was so dark, and it was at night. And then all of a sudden, I see the lights pop up, and I was just like, and he was so hidden, like you couldn't even see him. And then I was like, well, I'm the only car driving right now. I don't see any other cars, so it's me. So then everyone was asleep, and I was like, guys, wake up, because I just got pulled over. I'm about to get pulled over. And everyone was freaking out because they knew my situation. And we were like thinking, should you move? Like, do you want to move? Like, because my mom's car is like tinted, so you can't really see when it's dark. So I was like, we have time to move, Iris, come on. But we were like, we didn't know what to do. So I was just there, I was like, I don't know. And I remember the police was already walking. I was like, it's too late. We'll see. I don't know what's gonna happen, to be honest. And it was just like, everyone started praying, everyone was like crying, everyone was so nervous. So the police comes by, the sheriff comes by, and he was like, why are you, do you know how much you're speeding? I was like, yeah, but I was not aware that it was, the speed limit was 55. I just want to get home. He was like, okay, may I see your driver's license and registration? So at that moment, I was like, what am I going to show him? I told my co-pilot, I was like, Denise, can you please get the registration? And she was so nervous that she couldn't find it. So I was just like looking at her and I was like, it's right there, can you get it? But then also I was looking down at my wallet and I was like, Lord, what am I gonna show him? So the only thing that popped in my head, I was like, I'm just gonna show him my visa, because that's the only ID that I had. So I take it out, and then Denise gives me the registration, and I just looked down and I just gave it to him, and it was like 30 seconds of silence. It was just like my, you know, it was just me in that moment, and I was just waiting for him to, like, you know, tell me, can you get out the car, because you need to go with me. And he looked at it for a long time, and I was just like, why doesn't he say anything? So then he was like, okay, I'm gonna let you go, but please drive safe.
Yeah.
But I didn't get no ticket, and then I got stopped again later on, and I did get a ticket. And then that time, that's when it really hit me, that I could, you know, go to jail for just that, or even get deported. Because I remember the judge telling me, he's like, if you come here one more time to my court, I'm gonna put you in jail. And I was just like shocked, because my mom was there, and I remember a friend of mine was there as well, and we were just like, you can't. I mean, why would you put me in jail? I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean,
was it just speeding, or was it?
He stopped me and gave me a ticket for no driver's license.
Oh, for no driver's license.
Yeah, and I was like, I couldn't speak up, because I was like, how do I tell the judge? Because in a way we had to respect him, but then in a way I was like mad. I was like, how are you gonna tell me you're gonna put me in jail, but you don't even change the laws?
Have you ever felt like that, where in a situation where you could potentially be deported?
Yes.
Even though with DACA? But with DACA you can't, right?
With DACA you can't, but like, I mean, without DACA, you always feel the constant like fear of deportation, the fear that I was very fortunate where I had some support from my family where I didn't have to drive. So, but still, like, for one of, when you just see a cop, you just think like they're gonna come get me, but it's just a fear.
And you guys aren't even doing anything bad. Like, you guys are going to school, making good grades, trying to better yourselves, get a future, and that fear of any time someone can stop you.
Yeah.
And take you back to a country, or your country.
Or what I'm facing right now, it's like my fear of the results of the next coming election. You don't know who's going to come into office, since it's an executive action. Whoever comes into office can keep it or leave it. So like, then you start realizing, well, whoever comes, whoever is my next president, what is he going to do with me? What is he going to do with all the students that are in my case? Like, I think about that and it just gets me really nervous. It's like, am I going to be able to maintain my status? Am I going to be able to still continue teaching? Am I going to be able to form part of the graduate program? Because without it, I don't think I would be able to teach, and that also cuts my funds of attending graduate school.
Yeah, like this DACA's not permanent.
Correct, no.
So it can go away at any time.
Correct.
And with the upcoming elections and the upcoming president.
So basically there's millions of lives that are depending on these elections because of DACA.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think how, like, really it's just independent, a lot of people to vote and make the right decision for something that they don't know me. Like, I know it's hard, but like, if you vote, you need to vote for the right people. Yeah. Someone that, like, you can really see yourself, not just because you hate the other candidate, you're gonna go vote for this one, but this one's not really someone you see carrying our country.
So basically, people who are voting right now for the president, they are also voting for your future.
Correct.
both of your futures.
Yes.
And you guys contribute so much to this community.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk also a little bit about DACA Plus. So that was another executive order, but it was not passed.
It was not passed.
And that would have helped you.
That would have helped me, yeah, because the thing with DACA, extended DACA, was that it will take away the gap of the age that you had to be before applying, and also the day that you enter the United States. So many people who are over 30 years old were going to be able to apply for that because there's a limitation for the current DACA. And then also for the current DACA, there's you had to be here on June 15, 2007. And so that would have been taken away. So a lot of people who came after that day would have been able to apply for that. For me, it would have been that gap, because I left the country in 2000 and at the end of 2007, and that was the year that for the current DACA that they had to count for you in order to be here for 5 consecutive years. So that didn't go through. I had the opportunity to go to the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., and kind of with other organizations around the world, around the nation, that are activists and are advocates for DACA, and they were doing the oral arguments that day. So we wanted to let them know that we care about this, and that we didn't forget that this could be another opportunity. And there was like almost more than 4,000 people around the Supreme Court, shouting and saying. It was a peaceful protest. There were some that did, other protests, not peacefully, but for us, it was just letting them know, hey, we're here and we want this to happen. And July 4th, when we heard the news, and where I work with Arkansas United Community Coalition, so we were all very focused and just ready to, if it did happen, or if it didn't happen. So we were like anxiously waiting, because it took a while for them to make a decision. So the first week happened, the second week happened, and then we were just like, when are we gonna hear? And then when all of a sudden, it just like, it was there. And we're just like, whoa, it just caught us off guard. Because I remember I woke up that morning and I was actually gonna go work that day. And I woke up late, and then all of a sudden I hear these text messages of my coworkers, and like, hey, this happened. They said no, and they just said it like nothing, because they thought I had already saw the news. So I just wake up and run to the living room and turn on my TV, and this when I saw that DAPA and DACA, extended DACA, was not approved. So in that moment, I was just like, I just took a deep breath. I was like, okay, well, I'm still here. All I have to do is find another way and seek for other opportunities for me to continue and reach my goals. And I remember that day is when we have our legal clinics. So I didn't really have time to take like that moment, or actually just kind of let that get through me. So I was basically working and doing interviews and other interviews. We had a little press conference, and it was just like everyone was talking, and everyone was just like, hey, how do you feel about this? How do you feel? And I was saying all of these things, but I didn't really was feeling anything at the moment. I was so, stressed, and with work and with the press asking me questions. So I just had to answer in a way, but wasn't really in a way my feelings were there yet. They were just out of there, because I had to be focused. And after that, we stayed late, and I remember that day I helped a person do her DACA. She was a recipient for DACA. So I'm there sitting, helping another person for DACA, and I'm here also, knowing that extended DACA was not approved for me. So when I got home, that's when I finally kind of just let that sink through me, and I just cried, and my mom was just like, it's okay. There's other opportunities, and if you've been here for so many years without, a status, what's that gonna do? I mean, you've been here already for so long that it hasn't made a difference, and thankfully, I'm still here. So
Yeah. Have you guys ever been put in a situation where someone looks at you and because you are undocumented, they kind of stop and they don't want to talk to you or they don't want to give you an opportunity?
Yes. You can.
you can go.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't.
I'm not going to mention names, but I've encountered a professor how I told them about my status and how I wanted to go to medical school. And he said to me, "Oh, you're just an illegal. You can't do much." And I kept trying to correct him and saying, "Please don't call me an illegal. Like, I believe all over Earth, like, human beings are not illegal. Like, you can call me undocumented, but still, I'm not really undocumented because I have a DACA now." But like, he just kept calling me illegal, illegal. And I left that office devastated. But I tried that not to put me down, and I've encountered other situations where I felt like whoever I was talking to felt like I didn't deserve that opportunity because I was I was gonna steal the opportunity from a U.S. citizen, but I've deserved it as much as they did. I don't think they should base it off my immigrant status. They should really base it off my grades and like my commitment to the community on what they were gonna give us, not just on immigration basis.
And just talking about both of your experiences, everything you've been through, you guys have worked just as hard as any other person here, and at times maybe double, triple. Would you guys like agree with me or like no?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, because you guys go through so much.
Yeah,
Personally.
and like you know, her situation. I think one of her biggest issues is just ignorance because we don't know anything, and people don't know what undocumented means, or you know. I remember the first time for the class that I have this year, Spanish for native speakers. There was a student talking about undocumented students, but he kept using the word legal, and I'm just like, no, it's not that. There's just no such thing as that. And you know, not everyone has come without inspection. You know, I was blessed to come with a tourist visa, but there's also that I go through so much worse. You know, I have to cross the border, and you know, with coyotes, and it's much worse. You know, I've always said that I've been blessed that I had the opportunity to not have to suffer, because there's kids that have to leave their families and go with a stranger and kind of just follow what they say and bring you here. He's like, here you go, you find your own way now.
They're basically risking their lives.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically risking their lives. So I think that's you know, the biggest issues is just people are still living in ignorance and not being able to have the opportunity to learn and actually take the time to see the struggles, because we all face different difficulties, and everyone came here differently, and everyone has a different, you know, point of view and a different story. So we need to be able to learn about them, because that's how you get to learn them, you know, more personally. Like, I can't just judge you by a book, you know, like that saying, judge a book by its cover. There's more stuff inside of it. And I think that's how every person is. You need to have the opportunity to learn and not just say, oh, look, she's that way or that way.
And before we close, is there anything that you guys want to say to inform the audience about the situation of undocumented students? Anything?
I think my message for them would be just to really be more aware of what's going around with your community, not just with undocumented students, but I'm sure there's other issues. We need to be more open and more acceptance towards everything that's been going on. So, but if you really want to understand undocumented students, I'm sure there's many resources around campus or AUCC, for example, that you can reach out to learn more about it.
Yeah.
You know, being able to inform yourself will open up your mind and help you understand truly what undocumented students go for. And you know, I always say that personal stories are very, really truly impact other communities, and that's when they start realizing, wow, you know, I didn't know that they are paying more than me, and you know, they're doing the same thing as me, just they don't have that 9-digit card. So what I would say is that you know, though we have struggled so much and we have encountered many different experiences, me and Alix, I don't want you to feel bad for me.
No.
I want you to take action and to join the movement of informing yourself and being open-minded and get out of the ignorance and try to learn really what this issue is and how we can change it and how you can help. So that's what I would say to all students.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you so much for opening up your stories. I know that it can be difficult and uncomfortable at times, but thank you so much for just taking that step to sit with me and talk to me about this issue. And your stories are amazing. So thank you so much for what you guys do.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.